Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sandra and I'm a recovering food addict who's lost over 100 pounds 14 years ago, and I want to share with you everything that I've learned along the way and what I learn each and every day working with other recovering food addicts. So before I dive into our topic, I want to ask you to stick around to the very end of this video because I'm going to be announcing a new program that I'm sure you're going to be interested in. But for now, I want to look at the reasons why certain people, including myself, have struggled with my weight and my eating for years, if not decades. This part of my life that I could never seem to get a grasp on or handle. Why did it even come to be? Why me? And so what I've noticed is that people who struggle with their weight or struggle with their eating for a prolonged period of time generally have these three things that have happened to them or are happening. And I'm going to take you through each one and explain them. So I want you to ask yourself, do you have a history of restrictive dieting and restrictive eating? This is an important element to really understand, because every time we go on a restrictive diet, what we're doing is causing an artificial famine. Your brain has no idea that your life may not have any famine in it. We're lucky and fortunate to be living in this time, and you may not be experiencing food scarcity. Yet, when you go on a restrictive diet, your brain thinks it's famine time, and it's your brain's job to keep you alive. So it will drive up the signal to find food, eat food, and not just any food, because your brain's very efficient. It will want to find foods that are high in sugar, high in calories. So we have research now to show that the longer a person diets, the hungrier they become. And I just want to put it out there for anybody who's in their teens or has someone they love who are in their teens, that dieting during this time is especially dangerous. The teen years, your brain is forming, your brain is susceptible to external forces, and so going on a restrictive diet during your teen years can often be a ramp up to eating disorders and food addiction, and that was very much part of my story. So I caution anyone who's a teenager, please understand that dieting, restrictive dieting during this time is a very dangerous thing to do. The second question I'm going to ask you is, have you been exposed to chemically engineered foods? And who can answer no to this? We all have been. Our food supply has changed dramatically in the last 70 years, and we don't have bakers anymore. We have food engineers, and these food-like substances are created to be highly addictive and to overwhelm the reward center. It's too much fat, too much sugar, too much pleasure for the brain, and anything that lights up the reward center in an unnatural way becomes addictive. And then the third question I ask you is, do you have some faulty thinking patterns when it comes to eating? So I was stuck in this addiction loop for years where it would start with, I'm just gonna have a bite, just a sliver of the cake, just to have a little taste. And then I would have the taste, and then I'd say, well, now I've blown it. I've completely blown it. So I might as well go ahead and eat everything I can get my hands on, because the diet's gonna start tomorrow. And if the diet's gonna start tomorrow and I'm gonna eat salad for the rest of my life, I might as well eat everything I can get my hands on today. And I was stuck in that loop, not for years, but over a decade. And it was always so interesting to me that as soon as I was satiated, the guilt and the shame would kick in, and the remorse and the self-hatred, and I would just heap on so much abuse on myself, and I was in so much pain. And then of course, what do I want when I'm in pain? Food. And then I'd say, oh, I'll just have a little bite, one little bite, and then start the loop again. Well, I've blown it, so I'm gonna eat everything because the diet's gonna start tomorrow. So if you've answered yes to these three questions, do you have a history of dieting and restrictive eating? 2, have you been exposed to chemically engineered foods? And 3, do you have some faulty thinking patterns when it comes to eating, i.e. This idea of perfectionism or starting over? That could very well have been your ramp up to food addiction. And you might be asking yourself, well, who doesn't have those 3 things? Who hasn't had a history of those? Well, actually, I'm going to give a shout out to my dad, being that it is Father's Day. My dad has had a very healthy life up until last year when he had heart surgery, but he's 88 right now. And I can tell you that my father has never restricted or dieted in his life. He's always eaten and eaten well and worked very hard and very active. He absolutely does not like chemically engineered foods. He was born in southern Italy, very rural town in the 1930s. So he probably didn't have McDonald's until he was in his 50s or 60s and thinks it's disgusting and has no desire for chemically engineered foods and doesn't have a taste for it, and no faulty thinking patterns for him. In fact, I want to honor my father because he has really shown me a recipe for a good life. And his recipe is to eat simply. So he eats single ingredient foods, proteins, simple meals. He stays active every single day prior to his heart surgery. And he's very, very social. He would go to his social club every day between 12 and 3. And so I want to thank him for giving me an example and giving me the recipe to having a full life full of vitality and health. And this comes from a very humble place because for many, many years I had a very strained relationship with my father where I couldn't see good in him. And today I'm so grateful to have these new pair of eyeglasses where I'm able to see the good in him, because there's a little bit of good in the worst of us and some bad in the best of us. So with that, I'm gonna tell you about my new program. I've come up with some new content, and the reason that I came up with this new content is because people tell me when they're in my programs, when they're on my webinars, that they feel so motivated and energized and they feel like they can do it, and then they leave and then they struggle. And so this 4-week program that starts on July 25th, and I have a daytime and an evening time, is going to answer that question: what do I do between meetings? How do I practically live this new way of life? So if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, that puts you in a draw to win this 4-week course. That's $99. And also I'm going to ask that you share this video, share this on social media, share this with people that you love. Get the word out there about food addiction and let them know that recovery is possible. Head on over to my website, sandraelia.com. So that's Sandra, ELIA.com. And if you sign up for my newsletter there, you will be in a draw for my course, my 4-week course starting on July 25th. So remember, love heals all things, and I'm sending you love.